don't have your Bibles, just ask your neighbor if they can borrow with you. We'll begin in verse 1. We'll read through the close of the chapter, and I'm reading from the New American Standard Version, and it reads as follows. If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I have become a noisy gong, or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and know all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. And if I give all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I surrender my body to be burned, but do not have love, it profits me nothing. Love is patient, and love is kind, and is not jealous. Love does not brag, and is not arrogant, does not act unbecomingly. It does not seek its own, is not provoked, does not take into account a wrong suffered, does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth. It bears all things. It believes all things. It hopes all things. It endures all things. Love never fails. But if there are gifts of prophecy, they will be done away. If there are tongues, they will cease. If there is knowledge, it will be done away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will be done away. When I was a child, I used to speak like a child. I used to think like a child. I used to reason like a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I will know fully, just as I also have been fully known. But now faith, hope, love, abide, these three. But the greatest of these is love. The Lord has blessed his word. For the next few moments, friends, I will share with you from the subject, real love. Real love, if you will. Just indulge me for a second and look to the people that are sitting to your left and your right and say, I'm so glad to be seated by you. Because I'm going to talk for a while, so you need to like who you sit next to me there. Y'all nervous now. Well, it's just good to be in the house of the Lord. But last Sunday, we experienced snow upon snow upon snow. And as we were in the house, my wife Erica, my two daughters Alana and Ava, and many of you probably experienced something of the same. You tried to figure out what to do in the midst of the snow. You read a book for a while, but then the book became a little cumbersome. You watched television for a while. You tried to stay out of the kitchen as much as you could. But it just kept seeming as if those Thin Mints and those Milano cookies were calling your name. All of a sudden, you started the snowstorm with 2 half-gallons, and then you left the snowstorm, and there was none left. Well, in my house, we started playing games, and I took a time to step back and look, and I said, it's been a long time since I sat and played Uno. Since I was playing Connect 4 with my wife, and you know, the day kept going on, and we were trying to figure out what was going to happen with church on Sunday. And I knew folks were wondering because I started getting phone calls. People wanted to know, Pastor, are we having church on Sunday? But you see, the history of the Christian church in Philadelphia, that it has to be an act of God for us to close the door. Our history tells us that if there is a way, we will be here. It may just be 3 of us or 5 of us, maybe 10 of us. I still have an image as a boy down in 1315 East Washington Lane, and the snow was so high, and all of a sudden a man named David Jones started walking up the street in boots higher than I've ever seen them before, and he said, we're going to church today. My wife decided that we're going to make a commercial. She sat me by the fireplace, Nate, and she started having the children hold up Q signs for me about what I just said. And we decided that we were going to have church on a conference call. Well, the pastor that I am, the preacher that I am, I came to my wife, I said, I can't believe I'm going to use this sermon on the phone. But lo and behold, as I joined with my brothers and sisters in Christ last Sunday morning, It was a blessing to be on the phone. Amen. It was a blessing to be able to share with my brothers and sisters in Christ. And the subject was that it is better together, or together is better. And it speaks to this idea, friends, that we can accomplish more in our lives when we are on one accord. When we have ourselves in one frame of mind, that everyone is working towards the same thing. See, things don't work out well when you have one going this way and another going that way. Even in local families with husbands and wives, it doesn't work well if the husband is going this way and the wife is going that way. It works better if we are together. And the same holds true to the local church. You and I have been in church for some time, and maybe not, but one thing I've realized is that in churches, even though we talk about Jesus, everybody isn't acting like Jesus. We find some who decide that I want to do this, and if you don't want to do that, then you need to find a new church. I don't think Jesus talk like that. For you see, it is better when we are together. It is better when we have time to reflect and see what is it that we truly love. Because even though I was in the house for those 48 hours, Sister Jody, I'm looking right at her, I began to see that I'm a blessed man. We had all that we needed. The heat was still working. My children were healthy. My wife was a blessing. And I'm a blessed man. And I realized in that space, visitors, that I was experiencing real love. I still remember it like it was yesterday. I was in the 8th grade. The year was 1992. And out of the Bronx, New York, came a banger of an album. This young lady who showed up on the scene, and people didn't know who she was, but she was singing with such grittiness and rawness that it couldn't help but draw you in. And she asked the question of you as soon as the first track came on, what is the 411? And then Grand Poobah said, I got it going on. And there are those who are looking at me saying, well, I don't know that album. You must understand, I am a child of my generation. And Mary kept asking you questions, and all of a sudden she got to the track, and she said, I'm looking for some real love. For you see, if you have the idea of it being real, then there's a connotation that you could fall victim for fake love. See, if I'm looking for real love, something to set my heart free, real love, someone I'm searching for. If you are looking for a real love, that tells me you might fall in the pitfall of something that's counterfeit love. A love that is a false love, an unfaithful love, a disloyal love, a deceitful love, an unreliable love, a flawed love, a dishonest love. But Mary's asked the question, and it seemed like she was asking the question of an entire generation, is I want some real love. I want some actual love. Amen. I want the genuine thing. I want the authentic thing. I want the absolute thing. I want the complete thing. I want the total thing. I want you to love me for me. I was watching the news last week. There was a young man who thought he was tough. You know, I have low tolerance for these fake tough guys out here. Amen. Oh yeah, I'm a pastor, and I told my wife the other day, I said, baby, I'm a new man. She said, you're a more refined man. Amen. I watched this young man on television, and he decided that his girlfriend was cheating on him, and he went to her and said, I'm going to make you walk outside without any clothes on. And she went outside with no clothes on to be shamed because he thought that she was cheating on him. I tell you, there are people out there falling victim to this false love. To this counterfeit love, the love that seeks to use and abuse you. The love that seeks to take advantage of you. The love that is doing all these things. But we need love, my brothers and sisters. If we are going to be better together, if we are going to be all that God is calling to be, we need a certain amount of love that protects. A love that matures. A love that gives life. I tell you, Mary was speaking the yearning of the masses because there are those all over the place trying to find real love. Dr. Martin Luther King, 1963, he gave us this idea that said if we are going to love authentically, then it is going to be a requirement that we have the strength to love. Amen. All right. See, love just isn't something that happens arbitrarily that says, oh, I love you, and then I try to take advantage of you. If we are really going to love one another, then it's going to take effort. Amen. It's not going to be comfortable. There are going to be moments when we're angry. There are going to be moments when we don't want to love, but that is just the precise moment that God is telling us that if we are going to be in community and relationship with one another, I want you to love them in the way that I loved you. The great philosopher Francois told us that true love is like a ghost, which everyone talks about and few have seen. For you see, people are wanting to love, and we see here in the text this morning. We see in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 that the Apostle Paul is writing to the church at Corinth. See, oftentimes we think about the scriptures and we say to ourselves, well, it sounds good, but is this really for real people? See, the Corinthians, those that lived in Corinth, this was written just for them. For you see, Corinthians were impatient. They were discontented. They were envious. They were inflated. They were selfish. They were unmindful of the feelings and interests of others. They were suspicious. They were resentful. Here was a people who said that they were Christians, but they had all of these flaws within their character. So Paul writes to them and lets them know, I want you to love one another. For the first thing you must understand, my brothers and sisters, is if we acquire all these various things in life, but do not have love for our brother or sister that we see standing next to us, I tell you, all of our success or false success is in vain. We have people who say it's like as if they're driving past Flint, Michigan, drinking their own Aquafina, and they say it doesn't matter to me that the people have been poisoned. I tell you, do we love our brothers and sisters or not? I tell you, we're walking past with our Big Macs, and people don't eat Big Macs anymore. It's not organic. Hold on. Let me get it right. Subway. They walk past with their Subway. And as they are eating their organic, grass-fed, no-calorie turkey meat, they see the brother or sister who's laying on the side of the road and they say, that ain't got nothing to do with me. But I tell you, in the space of this beloved community that we call ourselves in, where are we when we decide to turn off the love, or have we become so callous to the realities of our world? Has church become something we come to as opposed to something that we are? Amen. There wasn't always buildings to walk into. There wasn't always nice carpet on the floor. There wasn't always nice lights in the sky. There wasn't always microphones and indoor plumbing. But I tell you right now, as sure as I'm standing flat-footed before you, that God doesn't need a building made by man's hands. He said, who are you to build me a tabernacle? I am God. I sit in the heavens and my feet are on earth. I am God. Moses said, who should I say that you are? He said, don't worry about my name. Just tell him I am. Too many people trying to figure out whether or not they can compete with God. What did the person say? Your arms are too short to box with God. God is calling us to this ethic of love. If we acquire all these things but don't have love, it doesn't mean anything. The first thing I want you to know is that love requires effort. Love requires effort. If you don't feel like engaging in some work, you ought not to tell anyone that you love them. Because the juxtaposition, the reality is that the person that you say you're going to love eventually is going to do something that rubs you the wrong way. Why do you think in verse 4, look at your text, Why do you think in verse 4, the first thing that he says is that love is patient? The definition of patience, Brother Dow, is the ability to be content even in spite of the frustration.
All right.
So are you able to wait even with things not going well? Love is patient. For all my parents in the room, you know something about this. For you see, just as fast as you loved the child as the child was so cute and grown, you showed everyone all the pictures and you said, look at my baby. But that last time when they asked you that same question for the 15th time, it went right there. You said you got one more time. Go in your room before you get hurt. Your love is tested. Even in the space of husbands and wives, you see it all the time. That love is, you can't say yes loud. Amen. See what I'm dealing with here? The wife says yes louder than everybody else. But one thing I am going to say, it seems as if my wife has a PhD. She keeps pushing them through. I'm telling you right now, we wouldn't be where we were in this 8 years of marriage if my wife hadn't been the woman that she is. But you see, love requires effort because you have to do multiple things. Look at the text. It says love is patient. It says love is kind. It says love is not jealous. It does not brag. It is not arrogant. Look at that. We haven't even gotten down to verse 4, and it's already asking us to do almost 6 things. If you don't plan on working, then you ought not to tell anyone that you love them. You ought to just say, I like you a whole lot. Because there's no requirement of liking someone a whole lot. When you start talking about I love you with this real love, this love of God. See, the folks from the Christian church know this, but there's 3 main types of love, and we know them as this. You have eros love, which is the root word of erotic, which is a physical type of love. You have phileo love, and the way I always remember this from my Greek test is phileo fish, amen? So you have phileo love, which is the root word of Philadelphia, which talks about a brotherly love. But then you have this agape love, this love of God. And see, if we are going to exercise the love of God in our midst, the next question you have to ask yourself, if you are saying, I love you, is what am I willing to sacrifice for you? There's a lot of young ladies out there who would be better off if they asked the question after the man said, I love you. Then you ask, well, what are you willing to sacrifice for? That would slow things down a whole lot. People start talking about somebody's calling me, but the phone didn't ring. People start trying to figure out how to get away. Who is this woman? Why is she asking me these questions? For you see, love requires sacrifice. If you say that you love God, then it's going to require some sacrifice. See, there are those who say, well, I love God, but God understands. Have you always come to, it's always amazing to me how we come to the space that says God understands all these things when we've decided what we are and what we're not going to do. It makes us feel better. God understands. But see, the reality is he does understand, but do we treat the grace of God with contempt? Do we say, just because you'll forgive me, I'll do this? Or just because you'll receive me back? What if somebody did that to you? The person who you say you love and sacrifice for, they keep on messing you over and over again. You remember what the text said with the prodigal son, don't you? Here goes this boy who ain't got nothing. I know I said ain't. He don't have anything. And I didn't realize that until I got my own stuff and had my own kids. My daughter would say, well, I want that. It's mine. I said, no, it's not. Everything is mine. Amen. I paid for all of it. Amen. You didn't pay for anything, so it's all mine. But can you imagine a child who thinks he's grown? Oh, and I know all the men in here, right around 13, 14, you start feeling yourself a little bit, don't you? You start feeling that man thing come inside of you. You say, I'm a man now. But you ever notice everybody wants to be a man, Brother Jacob, but they don't want man things? See, because you don't want to be a man unless you like the gas bill in your name. No. You don't want to be a man yet until you like Pico, amen? You don't want to be a man yet until, see, everybody wants to be a man on their own terms. The man went to his father. He said, give me what's mine. Now, the dad is better than me, amen? In my BJ days, that means before Jesus days, I might have said some different things to a young man like that. But this guy goes to his father and he says, give me what's mine. And the dad amazingly gives it to him. The boy goes out and spends all that he has. The story tells us he ends up with the pigs. He finally smartens up and said, I'm going to go see my daddy because even though I was wrong, he won't let me eat like this. He shows up. The dad lifts up his hem and he runs to meet him and greets him and says, we're going to kill the fatted calf and have a party. Why? Because I love you. There's some of us here that need to let some things go. Oh, don't worry, Brother Shock is back there getting our reception ready. But see, he wants you to be right and hungry when you get there, amen? Some of us need to let some things go. For you see, we're holding on to certain things and they're not hurting anybody but you. There's some things, you ever notice the thing you holding against the person doesn't bother them one bit? They walking around, whistling Dixie, enjoying the hair, they're not even worried about it. And you walking around as soon as you see them, cutting your eyes out. Some things have to be let go. Unless you think I made it up. Look at verse 5 in the text. It says love does not act unbecomingly. It does not seek its own. It is not provoked. Does not take into account a wrong suffered. Oh, I told you. If you're not ready for love, I want you to use this. Say I like you a whole lot. But if I'm going to say I love you, then it requires some things of me. If I'm going to say that I really, really love you, it does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth. Let's get down to the text right here in verse 7. Because love requires effort. Love requires sacrifice. And in the midst of this sacrifice, you must be willing to endure. You must be willing to endure. Look up for a second. I went the other day to pick up some food for my family. And we were getting something to eat, and I was going to bring it back home. And I didn't really feel like talking to anybody, but you ever know you go to a store and there's always that one person that wants to talk a lot? And the thing is, see, when you're the pastor, you really start feeling guilty, amen? I had my hood on. I was trying to keep my face down, you know. But all of a sudden, this brother just starts talking to me. And I said, all right, brother, all right. And you know what? He kept on talking. And then he started telling some issues about his life. And then I realized, well, Lord, I guess you caused me to come to get the food he needs. So let me take my hood off. Knock off my Timberlands. And listen to this brother. Well, he began to tell me some of the things that he was struggling with in his life. He began to tell me some of the obstacles and the battles that he's dealt with personally in his own life, with his family. And I began to listen. I almost started crying. But at the close of his testimony, and that's really what it was, he told me, but you know what? I'm still here. And I'm still praising God. I tell you, I'm here in the midst, and I'm listening to this brother. I didn't want to listen. It was cold. All of a sudden my window wouldn't go up that morning or that evening. I had a little crack there. My wife saying, why are you telling them about the window? It's all right. I'm not the only one that ever had the window that wouldn't close all the way. It'll get fixed. It doesn't have anything to do with the engine, amen? I'm still going from point A to point B. But I'm sitting there and I'm listening to this brother talk about his struggles, and I say to myself, oh my goodness. He still had the testimony because he was able to endure. He was able to deal with what was against him, and then he was able to keep on pushing forward because he remembered that God was still good. Let me stop for a moment. Let me stop for a moment. See, unless I preach and get happy all by myself, I'm going to give you a second. I'm going to give you a second to think back last year, 5 years, when the cancer came back, when your daddy died, or when you didn't have a job. I'm going to give you a second. Maybe your mother wasn't around. Maybe you didn't have anything. Maybe they were abusing you and using you, but you're still here. Oh, let me stop for a second. For the person that's people been talking about a long time, and they say, well, why can't they say anything good about me? I'm going to give you a second to say thank you, Jesus. They tried to destroy me, but they couldn't. We was in a Pentecostal church. I know he's all right. Yeah. Verse 7, it bears all things. It believes all things. It hopes all things. It endures all things. My brothers and sisters, one of the greatest battles that you're going to ever fight is the battle of your mind, and being able to believe something even though you don't want to believe it. To be able to believe that God is still good even when there are obstacles. To believe that God will still make a way. I'm a student of history for many people, and for a long time in my life, I was what they called a closet nerd. I loved to read books, but I didn't want anyone to know. For you see, when you're a young boy and you get certain approval by doing certain things, and even now you see our young boys in school, they're having these same issues. The issues of they are smart, intelligent, powerful beyond belief, but they don't want anyone to know that they have this wisdom, that they have these abilities. But I used to read, and I would read and read and read, and I would say to myself, my goodness, how is it that African Americans made it this far in the same state, in the state that we're in right now? I know everything isn't all that we want it to be, but I tell you right now, ain't none of y'all wading in the water right now. I know it might not be all we want it to be, but I know right now if you want to go to the bathroom at the McDonald's, you can go to the bathroom. I know it may not be all that you want it to be, but I know pretty soon, I trust we're going to go and vote somewhere. But I said to myself, how in the world, Sister Hazel, did we make it to this space? And I remember that there were some songs that folks said, even when they didn't go to school that long, they said, the Lord will make a way somehow. See, I love songs like that, brothers and sisters, because it says, I don't have to know how he's going to make the way. I just know he's going to make it. See, this is what happens when you preach on the phone and it snows on Sunday. You just preach overdrive. It bears all things. It believes all things. I want you to believe the best. You leave out of here today, you believe the best. Not what someone said about you, but you believe what God said about you. When you see, the reality is this. After we realize that love requires effort, after we realize that love requires sacrifice, I want you to know that love is worth it. Yes. Let's say that together. Love is worth it. Love is worth it. I realize that every time that I prepare to conduct and see over a funeral, when someone leaves this world and the body is still here and yet they are in heaven, I realize that love is still worth it. Yes. When you see, you can always tell the folks that really love the loved one. You can always tell when you see, when you go to see them, they talking about the things that they remind them that make them smile. They talk about those memories that are still sitting right deep in their inside. They don't start talking about the insurance money until a few weeks later. But you can always tell when the person is out for the insurance money. It's the first thing they start talking about. You show up, the preacher shows up, they say, well, Pastor, I just started talking about the insurance. I called the people about it. Lord have mercy. Never mind the fact that they were living in you and breathing in you and blessing you. You can always tell when there's love there. In John chapter 15, verse 12 and through 13, we read the beloved disciple write this. This is my commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. My brothers and sisters, the reality is that love is worth it. For you see, we don't just come here because it's nice to come here and people see you dressed up. We don't come here just because someone invited you here. We come together because we serve a risen Savior. See, I'm always very mindful and keenly aware that I have great limitations. Yes, I'm a pastor. Yes, I believe that God placed me in this office, but I'm keenly aware that my power is limited to a degree. But I do know someone who has no limitations. I do know somebody who is able to do more than you can even imagine. Your mind can't even comprehend what God can do. I do know someone, Sister Phyllis, who was able to stay on the cross and live there and able to have the blood and the water come out, and they said he died. Oh, hallelujah. Wait, I don't even need it. And all of a sudden, Jesus on the cross, and he said, I love you so much. Even though you found yourself doing everything you ought not to do, I'm going to stay for you. I'm going to stay for you. I'm going to stay for me. And the best part of the story, Sister Ann, early, on the first day of the week. Early, on the first day of the week. Don't mind me. See, I get happy when I preach. Why? Because I believe it. Early on the first day of the week, my brothers and sisters, the text tells us that he got up out the grave. And since he got out of the grave, it tells us this, that there's room for you too. He said, I'm the firstborn of the dead. And if I'm the firstborn of the dead, then that means there's room for all of us. There's room for the person down the street, and the best part is there's room for the drug dealer. There's room for the prostitute. There's room for the person that's been a deceiver. There's room for the person that's find the bad crime. There's room for them too. Because I'm so glad that God didn't leave it up to us about the rules of who can get saved and who. I'm so glad he did not leave it up to us about who could come and receive eternal life. Because some of us would have made some rules a long time ago about who could come and who couldn't. That person that told a lie about you, oh, Jesus, I don't think she should come. That person that tried to take advantage of you, no, Holy Spirit, they not right with you. I don't think they. But the reality is, Jesus says that I've proven my love to you because I have a real love for you. Not a fake love. I'm not trying to figure out what I can get from you. I'm trying to let you know that I can give you something that you can't even imagine. And that's a love that surpasses all understanding. My brothers and sisters, if you've been looking for a certain type of love, when you've been looking in all the wrong places, you've been searching like Mary said and trying to find that real love, someone to set your heart free, and they took your heart and ran with it, I want you to try Jesus. If you've been out there trying to figure out how am I going to make it past the situation that I'm in, my loved one has gone, my job has let me go, I had some obstacles, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to make that next step, let me tell you this, try Jesus. It's an amazing thing about Jesus. Is that when you take one step to him, he says, if you just knock and come to me, you don't have to go looking, I'm right here. See, some of us, we've been looking for somebody to come back, and they ain't never gonna show back up. Just let me tell you right now, they not coming back. You running around chasing after them, hoping that they stay. No, you ain't never gotta worry about it. Because real love is love that will stay. Oh, see, I ain't come to talk about relationships, but this is something that folks need to hear. You ain't gotta be running after somebody if they really love you. You will always know And guess what? When they show you who they are, believe them. Don't try to make excuses for them. Don't try to tell them all the things that, oh, I believe different. No, believe who they've proven themselves to be. I love you. I love you even though I might not even know you, but you know why? That's fine. Because Jesus said, I want you to love one another. I want you to love with the love that I have loved you with, the love that's patient and kind, the love that forgives. And then I tell you this, and this is true. When we love each other the way God is calling us to love one another, there's nothing that will stand in the path of the church ever again. When we love each other the way God has called us to love each other, I tell you, the organism that is the church will have power beyond power. I'm not just talking about power that you can meet with some politicians. I'm not just talking about power that some folks think you can do something. No, I'm talking about that real power. I'm talking about that wonder-working power. I'm talking about that power that can change lives and break demons and cast down strongholds. I'm talking about that real power. See, we're not about the business of playing church. Oh, that's enough. See, that's how you end a sermon when you got some more to say, but you love it. Amen? If you've never received Jesus, I invite you to come. Now let me be very clear about this. There is a hell to miss and a heaven to go to. I'm so glad for the Father that I have, because he tells me all the time, he says, Al, there's not many people talking about heaven and hell anymore. And every time he tells me, I take it as a hint that I got to tell somebody, amen. There's a heaven to go to and there's a hell to miss. And let me tell you, the best news is Jesus loved you already to take care of the problem. Jesus said that what you can do is come to me, and if you will confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord, believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. Second, if you want to be a member of a good church, I invite you to come. Now, let me be clear about this. You may say, well, Pastor, of course you're going to call your church good. You're the pastor. Well, the reality is, the scriptures tell us none is good but the Father. So my definition of good isn't based on who comes. My definition of good is, are you in the Father? And if you're in the Father, then you're all right with me. You can have 10,000 or 5. If you're in the Father, then you're all right with me. If you just want someone to pray with you, I invite you to come. Now, let me be clear. The scriptures tell us that we pray in the name of Jesus, he is faithful to hear our prayer and respond. Now, it's not because my prayer is special, but because I'm willing to be crazy enough to believe God. Let us stand. The doors of the church are open. If there is one, let them come.